Good day, and welcome to NACTV's Coffee Chat. My name is Lyle Watson, and I'd say thank you for joining us for our chat today. And we're very pleased to have as our guest Eileen Clarke, our local MLA from the constituency of Agassiz. And thank you for joining us today and taking the time to come to Neepawa to be with us.
Thank you, Lyle. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we're looking forward to chatting about a few things, and we could probably chat for an hour or so, but I guess we don't have that much time. So I think I'd like to get kind of right at things as they are currently. And one of the things that you've announced this year is your retirement from politics coming up after the next election. How are you feeling about that, Eileen?
Well, I'm actually feeling really good about it. It was a decision that I made. It's a solid decision, let's put it that way. We built a new home just at the time that I went into government. So I've kind of always felt like a visitor there on the weekends, going back and forth, and also living in Winnipeg. So, yeah. I am a senior, and I would like to spend more time in my home, in my community, and maybe pursuing a few things that I've always thought about maybe doing. And yeah, I've been working since I was 18 years old, and nonstop with very few vacations. So I just think I would like a slower pace.
Born and raised in Gladstone. You've been there all your life.
Yes, yes.
Well, I'm sure you won't be retiring from everything, and you'll be very active, I'm sure.
I expect I will be. I don't know. Right now I'm thinking about, I've got a brand new Bosch baking or mixer, and I'd like to be baking bread and buns and pastries and such. And I would also like to do a lot of other things. But I also know that I really thrive on being with people, working with people. So in all likelihood, at some point, who knows how long after I am retired, I will find another avenue of whether it be volunteering or being engaged in some other way, whether it's in my own community or in the province. But right now, no plans, just really looking forward to getting through the rest of my term till the election in 2023 and see what's in store for me.
Well, we wish you good health and happiness
Thank you.
wherever your avenue goes.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of the upcoming election, less than a year away, Jody Byram's been nominated as the next representative for this constituency. How are you feeling about that? I know you were excited and happy about it.
I am. I'm very pleased. It started out as kind of a joke a while ago, about her running. I think she kept prompting me, encouraging me to run again, one more term, and that was not an option for me, and I didn't feel it was, and I still believe it isn't. But it was jokingly suggested that she should just, run for the nomination and carry on, and I guess we all had a good laugh about it for a while. But that conversation got more serious as the months went along when she realized I really was not going to be running again, and I probably was beyond happy when she thought perhaps that she would like to pursue that. Very capable. She has worked very, very hard within the Agassiz constituency, but she's also very knowledgeable on the province as well, having been with me during a lot of my tenure as a cabinet minister with government processes as well as government events. And she understands really well all the issues because she has worked tirelessly on issues facing Agassiz, but also beyond. So she is more than ready for this position.
Well, with the experience that she gained working with you, takes another person quite a number of time, good length of time to gain that experience. And
well, it does, even just knowing the people.
Yep.
The people that are associated. She knows the staff in the legislature. She knows the other members of our of our party and such. And I mean, we still have to go through an election to get her there, but I feel very confident, and I'll certainly be working very hard on her behalf, as she did for me, and we'll both work very hard on behalf of the PC party to do our part and maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, it's coming soon. So
very soon.
The time goes quickly. Mm-hmm. I'd like to touch on some of the highlights of the year that has kind of slipped away on us, and one of them is that you were appointed Minister of Municipal Relations under the Premier Stephenson, and you've just had your annual conference here. some of the highlights that may have come out of that, Eileen, if you could share with us, please.
Well, that was just a couple of weeks ago, and it was 4 days I spent right at the convention center with the municipalities. We had a lot of individual meetings with municipalities, and I have to say they all went really well. We have a lot of newly elected. There's 45% of the municipalities, or 45% of new municipal officials are new.
Oh.
And if you include municipal officials that say went from a councillor to the mayor or reeve position, there's actually 60% change in municipal officials.
Wow.
So it's a very significant year, and given that we went through a lot of challenges last year with municipalities in regards of code of conduct, conflict of interest, financial governance, those issues still exist and we are working on them. So that will be my, I shouldn't say challenge, but that will be a priority going into the new year for sure. So we've got a lot of work to do and a short time frame for me to work in it. But starting January, Jody and I will definitely be doing typically what were our annual visits with the 7 municipalities in our area. We have 25 Hutterite colonies, which we normally visit, the school divisions, and so we've got a very, very heavy schedule. And amongst that time frame in January, February, I also have to work in other municipalities that I've got commitments to go and visit with the municipality, and I do prefer to go to the municipality rather than them coming into the legislature. It's easier for me to go to them, and I like to get the scope of the community and the projects they're working on and their challenges or their successes, so that we know as a province, where we're at. So.
One of the projects in our municipality, of course, is a lot of conversation about our new hospital, and I know, Eileen, you worked hard and finally got the announcement through. Where is that, what state is our new hospital at this point, in your opinion?
Well, first off, I'm not taking credit for this hospital coming here. The credit goes to the people of this area, for Neepawa and surrounding area, that have worked so hard, not just on the hospital, but all healthcare issues, whether it's the clinic work that they did, Country Meadows. This community has worked tirelessly, fundraising and promoting and trying to get to this point. I was in the right place at the right time, and it seems like only a few weeks ago that you and I were sitting here, and I was running for the election, and we brought up the hospital. Yeah. And today I come past and I'm watching, and there's construction going on there, a lot of land clearing. It's all fenced off. It's a reality now, and for myself too, I've been able to follow it behind the scenes, of course, and often I knew a lot more than I could share, but. When I look at the final concept that was presented at the sod turning, and I look at that facility, it is simply amazing. It's a beautiful facility. It has been upgraded since the original plan as far as size and the services, etc. And of course, the costs have escalated, which our government is still committed, even with the escalation in costs due to inflation. The cost of materials, the cost of labor, everything is inflated now. And being a member on our Treasury Board, this is what we're dealing with on every single project, whether it's schools, hospitals, culverts, road repairs, everything is higher. So, but it's solid, it's in there, it's in the queue, it's happening, and I won't be here for the official, I will be here for the official opening, but not in the capacity of your MLA. But I think it's a real, for the region, this is going to be such a big asset. Really.
Neepawa will become a hub of this region.
I think our government sees Neepawa as a hub, and I mean with the significant growth that has been ongoing, it's very much needed. It's very timely. Yep.
And there's going to be lots of spin-offs that are going to come to Neepawa because of the fact that that hospital is here.
Exactly.
And we're seeing them already.
Exactly.
Well, it's exciting. And
it is very exciting.
And are we still looking at 2025, give or take?
You know what? I don't even gamble on those guesses because, anything can happen. What I've learned in the past 6 years, anything can happen that will slow the process, but the process is committed. That's the most important issue.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yes, we're happy that its construction has started. Could you share with us some of the other highlights that have happened either in your ministership or within the Agassiz constituency over the past year that stand out in your mind that you'd like to talk about today? I mean,
Well, I have to say, I mean, it's not normal that a cabinet minister would have stepped down like I did in July of 2021, but not expecting to go back into cabinet. That 6 months I was out of cabinet, though, was a good experience for me. When I was, elected into government and straight into cabinet, I didn't have that experience to just be an MLA at that point. So being a cabinet minister, being the MLA and in a different capacity within the legislature, it really opened my eyes to the access that I had as a minister to the running of the government and getting everything firsthand and knowledge firsthand of what's going on, whether it's just not just my department, because when you're in cabinet, you share, at the cabinet table. So not being in cabinet, I wasn't particularly missing that scheduling that I had. But what I did realize is the people, the MLAs, my colleagues that aren't in a cabinet position, that they don't have access to the same amount of information, perhaps, and so on and so forth. So when the Premier Stephenson asked me to come back into cabinet, I committed to her that I was going to be more inclusive of my other colleagues, that I would try and include them. I would try and make them feel more a part of our whole caucus. And I mean, that's of no fault. That is just how politics is. But, and I've tried really hard to do that, to include them in any way possible, to provide information if that was helpful. So that's been a new experience, and I really learned from that. But when I was asked to come back into cabinet, especially in municipal relations, I kind of felt I'd won the lottery, because I do have a passion for municipal work, and it's something I know. And I think that's been a really good experience. I have a really great staff in Winnipeg, and we've been able to accomplish a lot with municipalities, and better communication, more transparency. And I think as a government overall, we've had discussions on communication transparency with the general public. We're in a different time now than we were 6 years ago. It's funny, that's a short period of time. And yet when I look back and I see the changes that have occurred in our province, in our communities, take Nipo as an example. What's happened here in 6 years? This has happened in many communities in Manitoba.
Yep.
And my department is responsible for planning and assessment and all things that affect our communities and our municipalities. And, we've had a lot of discussions, and we have discussed that we need to share more information with the public so that they understand the processes and they understand what our responsibilities or our barriers are within government as to what we can deliver and not. And I think everybody's been hearing for the past year that the municipalities have had a freeze on their grants coming forward, and the opposition kind of makes a noise about that in government. But what the general public probably would understand if they were told is we only do a budget once a year, and there isn't an available bunch of funds. When we budget, those funds are accounted for, unless for some reason projects don't happen where there's a surplus. But you can't make a commitment to new funding in the middle of a fiscal year.
No.
So that's something I'm working on right now with our Treasury Board. And
you're on the Treasury Board.
And I am on the Treasury Board, so I have a voice at that table. But it's been exciting because I can, and that's one of the reasons I go to municipalities, is to share information. We did a meeting with a Western group of municipalities at Brandon Winter Fair, I guess, at the end of March. And we had a group of, I think there was 18 or 22 people came, mayors and reefs from the whole southwest corner. And we had a meeting, and I asked some of my colleagues to come with me. I think we had 4 or 5 cabinet ministers there. They asked questions, and because some of us had been into different portfolios in government, we were able to answer those questions. And they said, and a lot of it was about healthcare. And they said, well, we didn't know that. And I think, there's a lot that the public doesn't know, and I think we we can do a better job, and especially going into an election. There's a lot of funding has been announced, but I don't think the general public understands where that funding is going, what it will do, and how it will benefit them.
Yeah.
So communication is extremely important.
So you've got a full slate of work to
I do.
accomplish before the next election.
I definitely do. I'm down to months and weeks, but I intend on spending every minute. You know, people ask me, "Are you not taking some holidays?" No, I'm not taking holidays. I am covering for other ministers so they can get a break.
Yeah.
But my agenda is get everything done I can possibly do in the next 8 months.
So the session is out now until after...
Till March 1st.
Till March 1st. So as a member of the Treasury Board, you're now working on the next budget.
We're working on the 23-24 budget.
And that entails a lot of work and a lot of interaction between the other departments.
Every department. There's 18 departments, and then we have some government departments within that. I think in between last week and this week, that's something like 18 meetings, which can last anywhere from 2 to 5 hours a meeting.
Yeah.
So it's extensive.
And you have to have the budget completed by when?
It typically would be, we'll be working, I think we're going through departments until probably mid-January. Then our Treasury Board Secretariat takes all the numbers and crunches all the wish lists and et cetera, and look at the revenue. And you know, there's a lot of concern for next year. Our revenues right now are good, as they are in all other provinces. But we don't know what 2023 holds. We just had another interest increase this month, and with inflation, interest rates, all the costs going up on fuel, wages, everything, it's also causes a lot of strain. So we have to find that balance.
Yep.
So,
just thinking, you'd mentioned health and healthcare. Have we seen a recovery from COVID yet in your own? What are you experiencing in your position in government?
Financially or overall?
Both. The effect on our communities and our province and financially.
It's interesting. From what I see, the costs of COVID, and you're hearing a lot about that federally now. As a province, I think when Premier Pallister was in governance, he watched very carefully what was spent and where it went. Right now, there's supplies that are outdated and can't be used, but they were sent by the federal government to us. We can't take the responsibility for that. They're only good for so long. I think overall, I have to say, I think Manitoba did a good job with the information we had to deal with COVID. Financially, we were able to give the municipalities more money. We were able to give schools more money to cover some of the costs. I don't think there's been a general review of exactly where that all balances out, because we're really not quite through it yet.
Yep.
But I think it's the emotional strain that I have watched and noticed the most, because Jody and I, through our constituency, we went through really bad times. Yep. with the public. And we see that now, and I think my colleagues see it as we're going into an election. There's a lot of people that did not agree with decisions made, and we made the best decisions we could based on what we were dealing with. Mm-hmm. And what's good for one is not necessarily good for the other. That's regardless of the decision. So there's a lot of still some dissension between people on regards to the restrictions and that were in place. People don't get past that quickly, and we understand that. Yep. That's fair. There's also still concerns from the election for the premier. Choosing a new premier. Yep. And it's like any election when you're picking sides, and as a party we have to get past that, because we've got an election very soon. And I have to be honest, when I look across, I don't enjoy question period at all. And when I look across at the opposition and the insincerity of their words and what's going on, that really concerns me. And that's another reason I'll be working very hard for the PC Party of Manitoba, because I know my colleagues, I know the commitment of this premier. She is dedicated, she is committed, and it's really impossible to please everyone. But I know what we're doing is genuine. I know from the Treasury side of it, we have done well. We are in a good place, and I really look forward. Economic development in this province is just booming. A lot of people don't see it, but I've been to some municipalities where I went to check it out with my deputy minister, and we are just amazed. I went through Centerport, I went through the Winnipeg Airport Authority. The Premier is working with Churchill and the port,
Yep.
Which I've always been interested in supportive of. But there are so many good things happening in Manitoba, and we are going to have to really show the people of Manitoba what we're doing, what we've done, and why we've done it to take the province forward.
And as an MLA, and in conjunction with working with your colleagues, it appears that Premier Stephenson's popularity compared to the other premiers across Canada is somewhat at a low ebb. And obviously you as an MLA, and you have a responsibility as in a group with your colleagues. What type of work, or how do you promote or try to increase the popularity, or are these polls altogether wrong?
Well, polls are popularity, and like I just said, you know, we had an election for a new premier,
Yeah.
you know, which caused a rift. COVID definitely caused a rift because it's easy as opposition to say that everything that's happened in healthcare is the fault of the PC party. That couldn't be further from the truth, because it's all across the country.
Yeah.
People are struggling. Every hospital, everybody's looking for nurses, everybody's looking for doctors, everybody's looking for physiotherapists. I mean, it's unending. And I think the fact that we're building 2 new hospitals, there's a lot of really large additions going on to some of our other main hospitals and in Winnipeg. You can lay blame in a lot of places, but I think we just have to really get out the real facts about what is being done, because there's a lot of good being done, and it's not just good for today, it's building on that capacity. So as a constituency, as an MLA for myself and for Jody going forward, we have financial responsibilities to the PC party.
Yeah.
And there was a lawsuit, of course, launched against Premier Stephenson, which she won. But lawyers cost a lot of money, and that sets a party back. When you have to pay financial, costs like that, that sets a party back. So we have a responsibility, all of us, we contribute to the PC party, but our money comes from those who support us. So that's a big challenge. We're also tasked with making sure that our memberships are up, and Jody did a good job of that during her nomination, getting additional memberships, and but we still have work to do on that front as well.
Yep.
But the next 8 months or whatever length of time we've got, that's what we will also be doing. We will be spending every bit of time that we've got going out and talking to people one-on-one, in a group, whatever it takes, to get the message out about what our government is doing, not just in our constituency, because we're all Manitobans. And it doesn't matter if it happens in Neepawa, Niverville, Steinbach, Winkler, Morden, it all builds to our economy.
Yep.
So we're all in this together, and I think it's really important that we just get our message out there. And I feel very trusted and respected by the people of this province, and having the ability now to work with all municipalities. That was probably the highlight of the AMM convention, was the atmosphere there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people spoke to me about my retirement, and it's...
But you've been part of that municipal
16
affairs.
years.
16.
16 years municipal. And so it's kind of heartbreaking, but on the other hand, you know what? Those people are still all there. I can go see them anytime I want, and I will always have those opportunities, because the friendships that I have made, I think it made me realize that those friendships are stronger than politics.
Yeah, yeah.
But they'll still be there.
I'd just like to go back to the healthcare situation, and you mentioned that each province is challenged, and I think we're all aware of that. Do we see hope within our hospital healthcare system here in Manitoba in the near future? Is it getting better, do you think, Eileen?
There are things that are getting better, but right now we're dealing with influenza, flus, and all those types of issues. So we have to build that capacity. And for instance, when you see like Neepawa building their capacity to 62, 63 beds, and you're going to see that in Portage La Prairie, where they'll have more capacity. They will have probably other doctors that are trained in other areas, perhaps can do more of the surgeries. Right now, our main hospitals are too laden with all aspects, which could be handled. And I think we saw and I was a part of that as with the AMM, and when I was in municipal government. The NDP party took all our hospitals away, all our emergency units, etc. And we see the value of better healthcare closer to home, where people can go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if people from Gladstone have to come to Neepawa, that's not a big hardship. They can still drive that distance. But you know, if it's hundreds of miles, and you know, you have to go so far, and we're hearing a lot about that. You know, right now too, we can't get the nurses and doctors in the smaller areas, and there is value. Even in Gladstone, our hospital is now what they call a transition center, 14 or 16 beds. They're full every day. We require more nursing there than we did when it was a hospital.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, it's about finding the balance once again, and that's what we're looking for. And you know, we're putting more into paramedics. That's required. Paramedics. I've been dependent on paramedics, and yeah, it's a different scope on healthcare than the way we knew it, because we need more doctors. We need more nurses because they don't want to work the hours. I mean, we saw Dr. Ong retire recently with a 50-year commitment to healthcare, and I mean, I can only imagine what that would equate to in hours, because he wasn't a 9-to-5 guy.
No,
you know,
no, he wasn't.
Whereas our younger generation, and that's not just in the health profession, every profession, they actually want a lifestyle besides work. And I can speak to that, and you know what, I really support that, because I did not do that.
Yeah, without that balance.
It's not right either. So, you know, you can't discriminate against them wanting that life with their family or whatever, their private life. So it takes a lot more people. Yeah.
But as a senior, looking forward, and I watch the news and read the papers, and I see all the concern about the lack of staff and the lack of people that are signing up. For example, recently, the paramedics, there wasn't a full slate of future paramedics sign up for the training to become paramedics. For me as a senior, that's distressing, I think.
Well, it is, and I mean, I experienced that a year ago, and I needed a pacemaker, and I went from Gladstone to Portage La Prairie, where they assessed me, realizing I had to go to Winnipeg rather quickly, but I needed an advanced paramedic, advanced skills, and they only had 2, I think at that time. One had just gone home after a very long double schedule. They couldn't call him back. The other one was out, and so they had to find a doctor that was willing to come in and watch over me to go to Winnipeg. And I mean, they had to really work at that. Not their fault, but we just don't have the capacity. And I mean, then we listen to BC, and they're offering them huge wages, additional wages, and you know, can we compete with that? You know, that's the concern. We lose to other provinces. Heard that in a conversation yesterday with conservation officers. We're losing our conservation officers to Saskatchewan because they're paying a higher wage. And so it's finding that balance where we can keep our people here, train them here, keep them here. So, and that's, as a government, that's what, and we're working on it. That's a priority.
But in the case of Country Meadows here, there's been times since in the last year where the information I've got is that there's been as many as 6 or 8 rooms closed due to lack of staffing.
And we've seen that other places. I know my mom's in the care home in Gladstone, and they have agency nurses consistently. They do in McGregor because they don't have the staff. But there again, right now too, it's because of illness. Everybody's sick. You know, it's just, these are different times. We have not lived through this before. This is exceptionally different than anything we've been through as a province in the past.
And we keep hearing more and more about keeping seniors at home. and the benefits of it.
Mhm.
And there are many benefits, and I
There is.
agree with it, and I've experienced it with family and friends too. But it also comes to a time where some families can't offer that care. And so then what do? If they can't get into the care home,
Yeah.
it's a concern.
Well, and that's why we now have a department within government for seniors and healthy living, and that is critical because home care is something that is really being revamped and redone. The home care wages were extremely low, not enough people, providing home care. And so those are all things, they're challenges, but they're being worked on to try and find that balance so that people that do want to stay at home can stay at home. And now we have assisted living facilities. To the one in Nipawin here, it's absolutely amazing. And again, Nipawin's so, they have worked hard to get this facility here. That means their seniors can stay in Nipawin. And it's the reason my husband and I built apartments in Gladstone back in 12, 14 years ago, because our seniors were having to leave because there were no apartments. There
Yep.
was nothing to rent.
Yep.
They could not rent. They had to move away. And, when you've lived in a community all your life, that's not really what you want to do.
No.
So, we built 14 units at the time, and we should have probably built 44 units at the time. But life progresses, and what were challenges back then those challenges are somewhat the same now, but different.
Yep.
So, and the cost of building these facilities is very expensive. So,
You're a real inspiration to many people, Eileen, and one of them is your faith and hope and going forward. We talk about change. What's your recommendation to our viewers as to how to accept change and to move forward instead of being stuck in a rut where we don't want to change?
well, I think the biggest thing with change is the fear of change. Most people fear change. Most people don't like change because they don't know what to expect, and when the unknown can be very scary. And again, I think it falls on us as a government. We are elected to be the leaders of this province. And I think we have to put out that message of hope. And I think that can be done by really telling people over and over again, or in different ways, different capacities, what is being done in healthcare and what we've committed, not just financially, but that we've committed that is happening. We've had calls, very recently about the Nipawin Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
What if it doesn't happen? What if it doesn't happen? Is it really going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, yes, it is going to happen. That is a commitment this government has made. And we can't predict the future. I mean, we could have never predicted COVID and what we've been through with COVID and the repercussions of it. But as far as hope for the future, you know what? It's 2022. We've been here for thousands of years. And you know what? Things keep going. And for me, when I know that somebody like Jody is going to be taking my position, that's my hope. She's my hope for the future.
Yes.
I trust that.
Yep.
And I know that there's a couple of others that have been nominated, and maybe some that are going to be nominated, that are equally as talented and as committed as she is. I have a lot of hope.
Yes.
For this province. And seeing myself and some of my other colleagues that are seniors and we're retiring, you know what? It is the right thing to do. They're the next generation. They need to lead.
And I think that gives me some hope to see the next generation taking over. And if I was to compare the Canadian and Manitoba politics to the U.S., I don't see that next generation quite as vivid as we do here. So we're thankful.
I think it's really important, and they come with new skills, they come with new energy, and that's really needed. And there's still a sufficient number of MLAs that are going to be there that have been there either a while or at least 1 or 2 terms and kind of know and understand. But I think it's a good time for change in government, and I think that's the other thing that we really need to put out there, that these new candidates really have our support because we know them, and we know they're coming with a set of skills that's going to carry this province forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
And speaking of skills, I don't know if you've heard, we have a restaurant in town now that has a robot. serving its customers. Have you had an opportunity
I
to
have
meet?
not. Is that the toy store? Is that the toy store?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're going next, actually. So after this interview, so yeah, looking forward to that. I've known Daryl since he grew up in Gladstone, across the street from us. So I know Daryl for a long, long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as I was walking down here, and Judy and her friends were gathering for lunch today, they were going out to meet the new,
Okay.
the new robot. And here, me as a senior, and kind of sometimes don't accept change as quickly. I said, how am I going to go out to a restaurant and be served or waited on by a robot? So
Well, and that's true, because you know what? I watched the ad on TV with the robot that vacuums.
yes,
And I just think that can't work. Well, now they have one that does way beyond that. So, but I mean, you know what? It's no different than my mom when she was 85 or 86, learning to use an iPad. And you know what? She said, I'm too old for that. I can't do that. And that iPad is everything to her now in the care home, because she keeps track of all our relatives wherever they are. And it's so important. And I don't want to be that person that says, I'm too old for that. I can't do this or I can't do that. And we've got a responsibility as seniors too to carry, do what we can do. You're still doing interviews, and I'll find something to do after politics.
yes,
There'll be something there. I never pick and choose. It just usually floats up and it's there for me. So I don't worry about it.
Well, I'll miss our interviews. But on that note, as you know, the time always goes too quickly when we're chatting. But it has slipped away on us again here today. So I would like to give you an opportunity to share some closing thoughts with our viewers today, if you could do that for us, please.
Well, I just really want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. 2022 has not been a bad year. It's been a relatively good year. We've had a good crop year for the farmers because we are an agriculture-based constituency. I've had great opportunities with municipalities and the people of Manitoba across the whole province. I've traveled extensively with meetings. And I want to wish you hope. I think we've got great opportunities. I know they're there because we're already working on them. And I am full of hope and faith for 2023. Yes, we've got an election coming, but you know what? Jody and I, for one, are going to get out there. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to meet lots of people, and we love traveling together, the back roads of Manitoba. So thank you to all those who volunteer. You are the heart of our communities. It's very, very important. And also to our healthcare workers, our paramedics, our firemen, and our policemen, and all those who serve. Just thank you from everybody in Agassiz and our government. And thank you to you. I love this. I love doing an interview with you.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today, and it's always a pleasure to have our coffee chats, Eileen, and hopefully we'll look forward to getting another one or two in before you retire.
Oh, at least one.
Maybe even after.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyways, thank you for taking the time to be with
Lyle.
us, and to you, Bob, and your family.
Thanks.
Very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our coffee chat with our local constituency MLA, Eileen Clarke, and I thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed our program today. And a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all our viewers from Coffee Chat here at NAC TV. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and be happy. See you next time.